my DNA. From above the water and below the surface. It's who I am. Alrighty, g'day and welcome to Al McGlashan's podcast. It is the best life on earth. But this time, it's a special edition because I've got the lovely Mary O'Neill. Welcome to the show.
G'day guys, g'day Al, how's it going?
Now look, you've got a bit of both sides. You're an Aussie and now you're in the US.
Yep.
And it's pretty exciting because we've got a lot of similarities, like, you know, working up and making it happen ourselves. So you started out doing the acting, right? Mm-hmm. Just normal, went to LA, normal thing, and then changed and ended up in Nashville.
Yeah, pretty much what happened was I had studied a conservatory of acting actually at Queensland at the New York Film Academy at Warner Brothers there, and my goal was to move to LA afterwards, and I thought that was going to be the actor's dream, go over there and make it. So I went over there with, you know, as a struggling actor, about 10 grand in my pocket, and I ended up working in this hostel. Couldn't find any good friends. I struggled so bad. And I realized that LA just was going to change me as a person if I actually stayed there. But I loved country music. And so I was like, why don't I head down to Nashville and go to the country music festival down there? I went down there and just fell in love with the South, fell in love with the town. And so I went back to Sydney, and instead of having my towel between my legs, I thought, well, let's look at that. Why don't I look at putting my entertaining skills and my love of country music together? And if I can find a way to make a career from that, I'm never going to have to work a day in my life.
See, and this is the perfect thing. Now, a lot of people that are listening to this, you know, all my podcasts are hardcore fishing and hardcore hunting, but it's about the crux of it. It's about changing your life and making it happen, doing what you love.
Right.
Now, you're a mad keen hunter as well, and that's what we're bringing in. But the important thing is that you change and went, right, I'm going to go and make this work, but let's get into the hunting side of it, because you're now, so you've been doing Nashville and, you know, you're on the red carpet there, aren't you? But now you're doing a hunting show on the Outdoor Channel, aren't you?
I am. So actually my family in Australia have a small cattle farm on the Southern Highlands, and I grew up going down there every weekend, riding dirt bikes and all of this, and I always wanted to get into hunting, but I had nobody to help me, and I had ex-boyfriends and whatever, and they wouldn't take me because they said it was a bloke's place, and it wasn't a place for the girls. And so I actually had a bow, and I used to practice target shooting on my farm, and I didn't get into hunting until I got over to the States, and my now husband took me out, and he said, do you want to go turkey hunting? And I was like, absolutely. I had wanted to for so long, and he took me out, and I just fell in love with it straight away. For me, it is so empowering to be able to hunt for your own food, and just get outside. You know, we're living in this world now where social media just rules our lives, and it's really hard to disconnect. And for me, it's the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and do you know what the big thing there is? And that's what I love when we met. Now, Mary and I met, so one of our good mates, Mitch Pierre, who's one of the head honchos at the Sportsman's Channel, the Outdoor Channel, all that, sent me an email and said, I've got this great friend coming over, she wants to go fishing. I don't need any excuse to go fishing. Mary came out and we went fishing. We probably should digress for a minute onto our feet. Actually, no, we'll go back to it. We'll go back to the fishing. But the thing is, as soon as we were chatting about it when we were on the water, one of the big things I find really hard, that in Australia, exactly as you just said, if you're a girl, you don't seem to be, fishing and hunting seem to be a boys' thing. I didn't realise this till I was in the US myself, because I went over there. Every second person's a girl fishing with a bloke. In Australia, there's bugger all of them. Mm-hmm. And I get really frustrated because, A, you guys are better fishermen or fisher girls or anglers, whatever you want to call it, in a lot of ways. And yet, for some reason, it's a macho boys thing here. And yet you go to the US, in 10 minutes, you're out turkey hunting.
And it's a strange thing too, because what I found is since I got into it, and what you were saying actually about girls being better, for some reason girls have, and this isn't everybody, but precision seems to be an easier thing to achieve with women in terms of archery, and I don't know why with fishing too, but I've noticed that. Yeah, and that must be what it is. But since I got into it and I've been fairly successful, my old mates from back here who had shunned me all want me to come hunt with them now.
No way for them.
Yeah, so now I'm like, oh, I'm the girl that can do it, but they didn't want to teach me, but now I can probably out-hunt most of them. So
do you know what's really interesting with that? So and I reckon you're dead right. So with fishing, a bloke has brute force. You know, like we just wrench on the rod as hard as you can. To beat a fish is about rhythm. It's about doing it smoothly. So guys just pull on the rod, yank as hard as they can, and it's a simple thing. You want that rod loaded up the same as you lift it and when you drop it back down, because the rod actually does the work. You know, as you lift the rod up, if you hold it there, the rod will actually start to straighten naturally. So you don't have to do the work. The bloke's wrenching as high as he can, he's dropping as quick as he can, winding. The fish falls off half the bloody time. You know, it's just so frustrating. Yet a girl just naturally has that rhythm, so they're actually really good at it. And you know, one thing that's really interesting is that in fishing they think, oh, how can someone fish 80-pound gear or heavy gear? It's all about rhythm, and it's about your pivot point and when you're harnessed in and how you use it. So you don't have to be a big fat bloke like me or something. You can be a little thin petite girl and you can actually catch really big fish, but it's all about that skill and that rhythm.
And the skill is a big part of it too. And I think coming back to what we were saying before about not the guys not taking me out, I think what I realized was once you show them that you've earned your place, they're fine. Because it's a funny thing, but once you've shown that you have dedicated yourself to learn it as a craft, to become professionally skilled in it, and you are educating yourself in it, they're fine with it. And I don't know, it's like that's...
But you've got to teach them. See, this is the big... So my two boys, when I started hunting, you'd love this. My old man gave me a 22, and this is out in Western New South Wales, and goes, go and shoot something, see if you can shoot something for dinner. I went, oh, beauty, no worries. He goes, if you don't shoot anything, you get no dinner. And I've got this 22. I said, what about safety? What about that? He goes, don't point at anything you don't want to shoot.
Don't blow your foot off.
Oh, right. So I went out and shot a pig. Came back to Dad, I've got a pig. He's like, you didn't get a pig? I went, for everyone from America, hogs over there as they call them, wild pigs, we got the same sort of problem, And so shot this pig, and because when they raid the crops down here, they're grain fed, so they're really good to eat. So I went out and ate it, and it was bloody unreal. And that was the same thing, exactly as you're saying. For me, it's all about, with hunting, it's all about providing for the family and knowing where your food comes from. To me, and it's fishing as well. You catch heaps of fish, you take one home to eat, you let the rest go. To me, that is being the ultimate conservationist, that you balance with nature. But knocking over that pig, like my old man didn't teach me to do it. So if it's a girl doing it, how do you learn the basics? Like my two boys, I'm showing how to track, how to read the environment. Going, all right, see these trees here. There's the sambar deer being browsing on these and all this. And Jim, who we did last week, so one of my good mates, Jim Penny. Which, how's this for funny? So we're sitting there, and I said, rightio, Jim, how many people have you got on Instagram? And he goes, 286. I went, 286,000? My God, you're so popular. I can't believe it. He goes, no, just 286. Now, I reckon we're going up a bit, because how many have you got on Instagram?
79.8.
We're going to call that 80,000.
80,000. I was telling Al before, it actually goes up over 80,000, just depending on what I post.
Come on, so, what is? Let's get down to the nitty gritty, because I reckon this plays
so
well.
If I ever post a photo with another guy, I drop hundreds of followers instantly.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't believe that.
Yeah. And then sometimes if I haven't posted like any of my hunts in a while, and I've like recently posted my black bear hunt, I lost a few followers and stuff like that. And to me, like, I get it. Not everybody wants to see hunting, but I just ask people to educate themselves on it before they judge it, because I eat everything that I kill. And there is a reason why there's conservation seasons.
It is. And to me, it's a massive priority that, even like we were saying with Jim, so we got him his first sambar deer the other week down Victoria. And one thing I really like? So we glass the deer. So it's unlike the US where they do a lot of tree stands and stuff like that. We do a lot of walking and glassing, and but they call it glassing in the US as well.
Yep. That's how they hunt mule deer.
Oh, so that's for mule deer. So it's the same thing. So you're looking a lot, saw the deer, tried to work out where they're going. So it's really strategic. Outsmarted them, got in the position, and they walked straight out in front of us. Shot his deer, and he said, "You know what? The best thing I really loved is that I fired the shot, it fell over." And he goes, and now I'm eating it every day. And if you follow it, you can see it on our Instagram channels that we're cooking it. I love that fact. And you know what? This is what I was actually doing. I keep going off on these tangents.
I know, it's just too much to talk about, Al.
It is. And he sits there, and when we're doing the photo, he put his hand on it. I heard him go. He just went, oh, thanks. Like, how's that for an appreciation?
Yeah.
It's not like some yobbo going, which is a redneck. Is that a redneck for the Yanks, a yobbo?
Yeah,
No,
kind
just
of.
try,
Oh,
yeah.
maybe, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yobbo's an Aussie term for someone who's just, I don't know, doesn't give a damn, I suppose is the word for it.
Probably, yeah.
And he just, and he was just really appreciative of the fact that took the animal's life, but now he's eating it.
Yeah.
And like you said, I understand people, see it in a different light. But if you're eating it, there is nothing wrong with it. Like, as far as I see hunting, it's feeding my family. And it's exactly the same with fishing.
Mm-hmm.
We go to extreme lengths to let all these fish go. And there's nothing wrong with taking the odd fish home to eat, because they're bloody good eating as well. And do you know what? If you went and bought at the supermarket, if you look at, say, your carbon footprint or anything like that, doing it yourself, I can guarantee, is 1,000,000 times less. So you're a lot better for the environment.
No, but not only is it's 1,000,000 times less, it's actually 20 times more expensive. And this is what people don't understand. It costs us more as hunters and fisher men and women than what it does to actually go to the supermarket. It's more time, it's more financial investment. So to be able to take away a harvest at the end, of course we're going to.
Yeah.
We're not using the plastics up. We're not buying, and also it's not farm bred. They've lived a good life
You know
out
where
in
it
the
comes
wild.
from.
Yeah, exactly. And you know where it comes from, and you know how it died. And that's something that I love as well. It's like you'll train you as a fisherman. You're out on the water all the time, so you're always trained. You know when you hook up a fish, you know how it's going to die. It's the same with me with archery. I won't go out and go hunting unless I have been shooting and I know that I can make a good shot. That for me is the biggest thing. I want the animal to have the cleanest, quickest death. And then,
And that's a respect thing, that you wouldn't take a pot shot if you didn't think you're going to knock it over.
No.
And I get frustrated with guys or with just people that, and it's this, as you said before, that they seem to become disentuned with nature now, because they live in these concrete jungles and they never leave it. So you don't actually understand what's going on in the real world, I suppose you could say. And I get really frustrated with some of the silly things that they talk about. I mean, I had a classic example, and this is true. Like, you have to sit down to listen to this. I was at a party, and this girl comes up to me and goes, I can't believe you go hunting and fishing and kill stuff. I went, well, no. I said, I let lots of them go. And I said, to be honest, I'd feed the family and that's it. And I said, look, I suppose you're vegan, vegetarian, whatever it is. She goes, of course I am. I went, rightio. I said, and I totally respect that for you, but I like eating meat and I like knowing where it comes from and my fish. And I said, but let's have a look at it. Let's start with your shoes. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, they're made of leather. And she looked at me like I'm an idiot. I go, the leather is the skin off the cow. I said, let's just bring this back down to real basics. She goes, yeah. I went, I'm pretty sure I'm talking for every cow out there that I'd prefer to be killed rather than being skinned alive. Oh, well, that's how out of touch people are. You can't have one view but be the other extreme at the other end. So you go, oh, no, hang on, we're doing that, but I can still wear leather. Where does the leather come from? It's just, it's frustrating that people don't understand. And for me, I'm teaching my kids how to do it, and they both shot their first deer last year, I think it was the year before. Both of them had to gut them out, do all the gross bits, clean it, and then they had to dress it down and turn it into chops and steaks and all the different cuts. But we were having dinner, and Cooper, the younger one, there were a bunch of friends around. He turned around in the middle of dinner at the table and goes, "Do you know what? I provided this for everyone."
Yeah.
How good is that?
No, but that's the thing. It is so empowering. It is so empowering. I recently shot a deer in Nebraska and completely cut it, skinned it, cleaned it myself. And the amount of meat that I got off that buck was, that will feed us for 6 months.
That's the thing. So you fully processed it, know where it comes from.
Yeah.
We were just having, before you came in today, we're doing a big documentary on southern bluefin tuna, and there's a lot of politics around it. But part of what we're doing is teaching people that if you take a fish, what you need to do with that fish. So you don't just bring it on board, put it in the back of the boat. You've got to bleed it and process it and get it iced down, because they're actually partially warm-blooded. So people go, oh no, you just put a fish on ice. You go, no, if they were putting a cow that, a beast was going to the abattoirs, you don't kill it and leave it in the paddock for 3 hours. You kill it, you bleed it, it gets processed down. And we're trying to teach people with the fish as well. But that exact same thing is that if you're going to take it, this is what you need to do to fully utilise it. So take everything off it, make sure you're maximising it, and don't waste anything.
Yep.
And I remember when I shot my first ever deer, and it was a sambar deer, so it's slightly smaller than an elk and obviously a moose, but it's a lot bigger than, say, reds and muleys and all the other deer. Shot it and I looked at it and went, what the hell do I do with this? This massive, 400 pounds of deer, and I'm in the middle of the bush. Look at it going. So I went to a butcher and said, show me how to cut these up. Now, I absolutely take great pride in the fact that, the other night we had it all marinated, a front shoulder, and sitting there and everyone's just ploughing down. We'd flame grilled it on the barbecue and it's bloody awesome.
Absolutely.
It's awesome,
I love it too.
Now, I've got to ask you,
Yes.
turkeys. What do they like to eat? I've never seen one in the US, but I've never tried to eat them.
Wild turkey for me, and everybody has their own different tastes and opinions, but for me, I think hands down it is so much better than farm-bred turkey. It's so juicy. It depends on where you shoot it as well. In Nebraska, there's a lot of cornfields, so they're really, really yummy and they're bigger. Down in Florida, they've got all the fruit farms and stuff like that. So it just depends on where you get it as to, they slightly change taste a little bit. But I absolutely love wild turkey. One of my favourite things to do is put it on the barbecue, wrap it in bacon with some cayenne pepper. And then a tiny little bit of brown sugar on top, put a toothpick in it and put it on the barbecue and barbecue it up, and it's just the best.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
See, we don't get any turkeys. We've got ducks, I suppose. There's a few places you can get ducks, but nothing like a turkey. How big's the breast on a turkey? Like it's a proper, it's like a processed one.
Like what you would get, like what you would get for, what do you call, Easter or whatever, Christmas. Yeah, big, really big.
So how do you hunt a turkey?
So you call it in. So you would set decoys out. You get up. So you'd either go in first thing in the morning or in the afternoon. They'll come down just before sunrise. You will want to see where they've roosted, which means where they've slept up in the trees for the night, and they'll start to gobble. Once they start to gobble, all the hens and turkeys will all talk to themselves in the trees.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they all
so
talk, having a little
mothers
chat.
mating up in the trees.
Yeah. What you really want to do is the night before see where they've roosted so that you can creep in close by. Then you'll set out a decoy, and you can call a turkey in from anywhere to... See, I've been hunting on yards, so what would 500 yards be? Let's say 300 metres.
Yep.
You could call in a turkey, even probably a bit longer than that, depending on who you're with and how loud their call is. You'd call them into the decoy, and then you shoot them with a shotgun.
Oh, wow. So they come into you?
They'll come into you.
So
it's one of the most incredible things to see. It is awesome.
Can you call a turkey for me now? How does it sound?
No, I need it. So there's a slate call, a pot call, and a mouth call. The mouth call actually has reeds in it, like you have on a musical instrument, little reeds, and you put that into your mouth and you call, and it goes into the roof of your mouth. Most of the guys that I know over in the States have been doing this since they were 8 years old, and so they're really good turkey callers. For a beginner, you'd use a pot call, which is like a slate, and it's got a little wooden stick, and it hits against the glass. But you can YouTube any of this stuff to learn how to do it.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, let's go back. So when you went to the US, you're over in Nashville. Let's talk a bit about the other side of it. Because I find that fascinating. You ended up doing the red carpet and everything for all the country music and all that.
Yeah. So I pretty much decided I was going to go over to the States and just start interviewing artists. And I would go over, interview as many artists, like up-and-coming artists in the bars as I could. Come back to Australia. I worked on reception and would save up every penny that I could, fly back to Nashville, do it again, come back to Australia. And I did that 5 times before the Country Music Channel asked if I could be their red carpet host for the CMC Awards. So that for me was a big game changer, because then it was okay, now I'm being noticed and people are actually taking my work seriously. So then I interviewed some of the biggest international artists for that, and that just meant that I was able to then take it up another notch when I got back to Nashville. And my goal was to end up interviewing on the CMAs, which is the biggest country music event of the year in Nashville, the Country Music Association Awards, downtown Nashville, on the red carpet there, and I did that last year.
That is awesome. And this is the important thing. This is why, because some of the guys that would listen to this are going, hey, you're not talking enough fishing and hunting. But the whole idea of this podcast for me, because everyone asks, how did you get the best job in the world? It is exactly that. Everyone thinks you just walk into it. It's bloody hard work. It's doing everything for nothing for years and years. It's working at reception, it's chopping down a tree, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to get you on, because it's that persistence that you just don't give up. Like I remember 1 month when, in the early days when I was doing all the magazines, I earned $30.
Yeah.
That was the whole month, $30. And you try and explain to people and they go, how do you get a job like yours? You work bloody hard. You fly across to Nashville, you go and do it all for nothing, you fly back, work at reception, you fly back, you keep going. Anyone that wants a job like we have, you just have to keep going. You must never accept failure and just keep going, isn't it?
No, I can tell you I probably invested into myself, and I'm talking back even into the acting days where I went to school and I would do free work for everybody so that I could get experience on set, etc. And then leading up to me going to Nashville, I probably spent over $150,000 on myself to get flights, camera equipment, editing, all of that stuff before I got an actual job.
That's it. And you know what the important thing is? That you kept doing it yourself. Even now doing the podcasts, we're doing ourselves. Like, you should see the setup. It is, well, it's just
basic, but this is all part of it, because I mean, not everything you're not gonna get paid for everything. You've really got to have a passion for it. And the biggest thing that I have learned is do something that you love, because you will feel like you've never worked a day in your life. So for me now, the money is great when I get it and the jobs are great, but I love just being a part of this community and industry, and that's the outdoor and country lifestyle, country music community.
Well, you've got that perfect blend, haven't you? You've got two things you love. They intermingle almost.
Yes.
Or they're back to back almost.
Yeah.
And you get paid to do it. And the thing is, this is the important thing, is if you want this style of work, you just keep going to get it. Everyone can do it because the opportunities are there, and you've got to seize everyone, and you never accept failure. Because I look back over the years, and I'm sure there's a few there for you too, Mary, that you just go, oh God, what did I do? You've stuffed up, or you've done things, or it's just gone the other way, or you've put everything into it and they've taken the other person for it. You miss gigs and stuff like that. But you just keep going.
Yeah, and also there is a little bit of a tall poppy syndrome thing that we get in Australia, unfortunately sometimes, and I love Australia, but it happens where people start to cut you down when you start to have some success, and you just have to look past that, because at the end of the day, all you need is a handful of good people around you. You don't need to be friends with everyone. Be good to people along the way, treat them well, but if you work hard, it will end up coming back to you.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's that genuine thing, and I reckon if you're genuinely passionate about it, it's infectious.
Yeah.
Everyone around you loves it because you love it. You go, oh, when we're out fishing, we're doing this, and we're offshore, and But with social media, where you get the trolls that are on you so hard these days, just ignore it. That's what it is, isn't it? Because social media for us now is such an important part of it, and it's changed. So when I first started doing the writing, I was using slide film, so not even digital.
My gosh.
So I shot some photos, and in one of the early podcasts I talked about some of the best photos I took. There was a guy with marlin fishing off Sydney. We're reversing up, there's fishes there, and I've run down the back to get the shot because I thought they'd have it on the leader, the marlin be jumping. It's jumped, they pulled the boat out of gear, it's come up the back of the boat, the bloke's standing over the side, and it speared him square in the clacker.
Oh.
Absolutely absolutely. I had no idea I had the shot. I thought I had something there because I'd pressed it. I had to go in and sit in the lab waiting for the strip of film to come out, and it is the perfect shot, and even the spear is pointing right in, and you can see the depression in his bum cheek.
Oh.
But you never knew that that's what it was. Now with photos, you pull out your phone, your cameras, the digital cameras. It's changed everything, which means we have a whole lot more competition. And it's like this, doing it for whether we're doing podcasts or whether it's someone else trying to get on that red carpet and push you out of the way, which believe me, they try and do every day. That it's just, you've got to be genuine. And I reckon it's authentic. You're passionate and authentic about it because people genuinely appreciate it.
No, I think that too, and I think that most people are you've got to give humans more credit than what most people would like to think. Everybody wants to be surrounded by good people, and they want authenticity, and I think that's why I love the outdoors so much, because I generally come across people like that.
They're passionate, aren't they? They're
passionate and just down to earth. I feel like people that get outdoors and just find time to just cut off from the rest of the world, they're on to something.
Yes. Do you know what? And every podcast I do it, because I give the greenies a hard time in this country, because they're just out of touch. So every time I do it, and each time I tell them to stop sipping their lattes in their little cafe surrounded by the concrete jungle and get outdoors and go and see the genuine, go and see nature, go and catch a trout up in the high country there, go and knock over a deer and bring it home and feed the family, because it's the best thing. They hate me for it every time I do it, but every time I do a podcast I do the same thing, because I think you're right, is that if they step away from nature, you're not disillusioned, you're out of touch, you don't quite understand, and I don't reckon you're as good a bloke, to put it bluntly.
But we are a part of nature, and I'm not saying that to be a hippie.
No.
We are a part of nature, and that's exactly what you're saying. That's part of why we've got so many issues with climate change and all of that stuff these days. I mean, don't even get me started on that. But yeah, we are part of nature, and you just got to get back to basics sometimes.
Yeah, and even so the other day, Mary came out fishing with us, and the great thing about Sydney is that picked up down at Rose Bay, cruised out the front. Like, Sydney Harbour's an awesome spot. You try and explain, do you know what? There's 630 different species recorded in Sydney Harbour. Now put that in perspective, is the whole of Northern Europe. I think it's 212. So it's 3 times as many. And what it is, the East Australian current comes down, so it brings all the tropical fish, and they all end up parking in the harbour. So you've got all these southern ones and all these northern ones. But how good is it? You can run straight out the front, and we're catching little kingies. You caught your first kingy, then your second kingy, then your third, then your fourth. Like, how good is it that it's on your doorstep, and then you get a coffee?
Yeah, I love it. That's one of the great things about Australia. You've got absolutely everything right here.
How is it when you're hooked up though? Like, it was a little bit slow at the start, because we pulled up on, there's an artificial reef there, and pulled up and I went, rightio, and all my mates, one of my good mates, Mark, the doc, had been out, goes, there's tons of fish. So we drifted over, I'm like, nothing, drifted over, nothing, drifted over, nothing. You're looking at me. We had young Zach with us, not your husband Zach, this was a little tiny Zach. He'd never caught a kingy, and all he wanted to go fishing, and James Yerbury, one of my mates, it was his cousin or his brother, or some relative, I'm no good on relative stuff. And then you caught one, and then
Zach caught the first one,
did he?
and then he caught the first one, and then I was like, the heat is on, because I'm meant to be on competition with this 10-year-old, and he was already whooping my butt. And it wasn't for like another 20 minutes that I got mine, but then after that they started to come in.
And then it was deep. But there's one shot, I've got a photo, we'll put up on Instagram, where you're holding up the king and he is giving you the dirtiest.
Oh my gosh, I've seen that one. He's like,
because you've got the biggest fish.
I know, mine was bigger.
And he's like this, staring at you. I was like, and I didn't even realise we caught that till I looked at the photo later on. I'm like, ooh, he's not happy about that.
Yeah, because at first he was like, I'm beating you. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then I got to the 4. I reeled in 4 and he reeled in 3, and I was like, look who's winning now.
Yeah, and he's just like, but how very good is it you can do it? Like, I love the fact that you can just race out down the river, bang, get straight onto it. And it was funny, I do a column in the Daily Telegraph. That was started because of that it's all on your doorstep, that Sydney's very multicultural these days. It's just about everyone from every 4 corners of the earth seem to live here. And the paper was trying to struggle with, how you get people to read the paper. So I was doing my first ever TV show back then, Strike Zone TV, which was on Community TV. And I rang them up and said, I'll do a column for free just if you promote it for me, And they went, yeah, we'll do that. They rang me up within 3 weeks and said, we'll pay you for this. I said,
fantastic.
why? And you know what it was? Everyone goes fishing.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's like exactly as you said earlier on, people that do all those outdoor sports, whether it be fishing, hunting, hiking, just seem, I don't want to say better blokes, that's not the right word for it, but they just seem to be a bit more, maybe easygoing's the word for it, more cruisy,
I just think that if all you're doing is living in a box world where you live in your box house, you wake up, you go and eat your cereal, which is a box, look at your phone, which is a box, get in your car, box car, then you go to the office, box, sit in front of a box computer,
It is, isn't it?
go home. You're living in a box world and you're never getting out and actually just refreshing your mind. Like, you can't operate like that forever. You can't. You're on autopilot. And I know because I've been there before.
Yeah.
I have, have you ever been in a grind, like maybe in your early 20s or something like that, where it's been a couple months stint and you haven't, maybe not you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not the best example for that one.
When I was in my early 20s, before I made the leap of faith to go into my acting school to do the degree, my parents wanted me to go and get a degree because my parents are both academics. And so Mum was pushing me to go and get a communications degree. And so I was working in an office in the city and then doing my degree. And I hated, it was Groundhog Day every day. I hated it. I'm like, for me, go and stick me down on the farm with a dirt bike, cold beer, and leave me by myself. Like, that's it. Exactly. And it was the worst, absolute worst. And so I know, because I've been in that grind before, and I just made the decision that this is not how I'm going to live my life anymore.
And that's it. And do you know what? And this is exactly why I got you on here for this podcast, because I want people, they will go, oh, how do you get a job like yours? Pull your finger out.
Take a leap of faith. You have to.
I'm not doing it. And don't think it works overnight. You know, everyone goes, oh, you're just instant success. Nah, it's not. You still work your absolute butt off constantly. But if you just believe in it, like I always said when I was going to do it, I said, right, I'm going to do the magazines, and I always wanted to show what we were seeing. Mm-hmm. So that was why it was naturally always photography. And then it moved into the TV, and obviously that whole side's really growing now. But the biggest part for me is not catching the fish, it's sharing. Even the other day when we were fishing, the whole time, I don't think I caught a single fish. Young Zach brought that up quite constantly. I think, actually. Once you beat him, he turned it on to me, you know.
Well, I didn't even get any.
Al didn't get a fish. So I was driving. I love that whole thing of being a part of it.
Yeah.
I love taking my kids out. Even with everyone else, like you guys all catch your first fish. I've been there, done that. For me now, I go, oh, how can I... All I want to do is get the photo, but it's that taking people out and getting their first fish or their first, especially marlin. Like, there's just something about it. Like, now you caught your first blue marlin?
Yes, I did. So for my honeymoon, we went to Cabo, and it was called Land's End Charter, took us out, and I was the only one. Well, actually, Zach kind of gave it to me. I first got a bite and I lost it, and then Zach said, all right, my turn, and then he got one and he passed it to me and I lost it again. And then he just said, look, I'll just let you get a marlin, it's fine. And so he actually let me be the only one really fishing that day. Third bite, I got the marlin. It ended up weighing about 280 pounds catch and release.
Yeah.
So took me about 40 minutes to reel him in. Those things are so beautiful. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you. The guy actually had to hold the bottom of it for me for a little bit while I was reeling it in because I just couldn't. It was so much weight for me. But I had no idea how much of a workout it would be to get them in. But seeing them just jump in and out of the water right in front of you while you're bringing them in is just spectacular. And then the colours, when they get close up to the boat and just looking at the colours all through the water,
they're so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. I will never forget that.
Well, you know what? That was one of the reasons I started doing the photography, because in the early days, all I wanted to do was catch marlin. And in those days, it was all yellowfin tuna and stuff. The funny thing is now we want to do is catch yellowfin, but there's no yellowfin now. There's heaps of marlin.
Yeah.
And I remember we saved up, went to Hawaii, learned to catch blue marlin there. Of course, you troll for blue marlin.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for striped marlin like we catch here. The damn things fall off all the time. So we caught a couple and we're back at the boat ramp, pulled up, and the guys are there, little ramp rats going, oh, how'd you go, mate? I went, yeah, you got a couple of marlin. He goes, oh, where are they? What do you mean? I said, we let them go.
Yeah.
They're too beautiful. And he turns around and goes, you didn't catch them, walked off. And that was that old sort of analogy. Yeah. So I went and got a camera for exactly what you were saying, because you want, when you try and explain it and go,
you don't get
this beautiful fish comes up, it's looking at you, they've got this amazing colour. Because when they go and hang them up, they look crap. This grey, dead. You can't explain what you see in the water.
No.
And that's what led me to the next level. Like, when I did, originally just top water, we used to do all the marlin photography. So for Marlin magazine, there was there's only probably 3 or 4 of us in the world that were doing all the top water.
Wow.
But then as the technology got better and we got digital, I started taking the plunge and then jumping in with marlin underwater. And if I thought they were lit up above the water, holy moly, underwater, like they swim up to you, striped marlin, all neon, like neon signs and glowing.
Yeah.
And you know the funny thing? They don't hurt you. They just come up, but they do this, they look you up and down like, obviously they're curious or they're probably going, what the hell is that?
What is that? Yeah. The ones in Cabo though, it is only catch and release. You can't, you can't actually bring them on the boat.
You know what? That's really interesting. So Pisces, which are one of the big operators there, we were talking the other day, and they said that. And they said a couple of local guys are still sneaking them out, and they're trying to stop it because it's hard to police. But I didn't realise. So in Australia, you can still kill marlin, which, do you know what? I reckon they're too beautiful to kill.
I don't know what. Look, I've never tasted a blue marlin, but yeah, I'm with you on that one.
I just look at it and go, there are other fish we can eat. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for killing a fish and eating it. If it dies, and I mean dies properly, which you'll always get the odd one that'll do it, take it. But otherwise, do you know what? I just reckon they're too precious to catch once. I just sit there going, you know what? We've got to look after them, make sure we do it. And I look at how I fished here. In the early days, we'd use like 12-0 J hooks with a striped tuna. The poor old marlin, they weren't living through that. But that's a learning experience. That's now. We use little 9-0 VMC inline circles, hooks in the corner of the mouth. We bring them up beside the boat. We snap it so all that's left is the hook. So the important thing is people think, the hook's bad. It's not bad for a fish because their bony mouths, they're eating spiky things anyway. They're not. For them, it's not an issue. And they rust out. Your problem is all the line and other bits hanging off. That can be a problem for them. And now we'd have 100% release. You're catching up to 10 fish a day. You're catching them really fast. It used to take us, I think my first marlin, my first one was a blue marlin as well. It took me 3 hours.
Really?
I had no idea
How big was
doing.
it?
Not as big as yours. It was small. It was only for about 100 kilos, I think it was. It was only a small fish. But
100 kilos. What is that in pounds?
220, 230 pounds.
Mine was 280 pounds.
Still bigger though.
Still bigger, but he probably wasn't as far out.
Yeah, well that's it. So
we'll just say that. Maybe I'm stronger than now.
Yeah, you always carry him like, oh damn it. You caught it quicker. It was bigger. It's just not looking.
And it was in Cabo.
Yeah, you've got to go to Cabo. Those Pisces guys were telling us because they get really good striped marlin bait balling down there. And the interesting thing, striped marlin only bait ball in a couple of places on Earth. So South Coast, New South Wales, occasionally New Zealand. And Cabo up to that Mag Bay, I think it is just north.
Yeah, Magnetic Bay.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Magdagila Bay or something, Mag something or other bay, whatever they call it. They're the only places, and they do it where they work with seals.
Yeah.
So they don't do it alone. So blue marlin, black marlin, they don't really bait ball at all. Sailfish do it a bit, but striped marlin do it, and they work with seals and dolphins. Like I've jumped in a few times where you've got dolphins and seals and marlin, and the marlin will swim up and have a look at you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the seals, they're a bloody nuisance. You know what they do? They push the bait away from you. And you know how hard
seals
it is?
are so funny.
Oh, man.
They're so funny.
They're such terrible creatures for it. So you go to jump in, and you got to try and read, because the seals will be pushing along. So you jump in the water with all the gear. Oh, missed it. Get back in the boat, drive around again, do it again. And I swear to God, the seals wait and go, right, he's getting, okay, turn left now. And you're getting, missed it.
Well, the seals in Cabo are just like dogs. Like, they're fed. Those ones that are hanging around the wharf there.
Yeah.
They're just, they are fed. They will swim up to the boat. I need to show you this photo. I'll get it out for you, but yeah.
Yeah.
When we were there, I had a seal just swim up to the edge of the boat, and I just fed him.
No way. So have you got this on Instagram?
Yeah, I've got the
there
photo.
You go. So you got it. Now we should promote your actual Instagram.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
You got to put the full. So it's Mary O'Neill official.
Yep, and this photo, you'd have to scroll back a little bit to the
That's
honeymoon.
right. Get on there and go back through it, and you will find it in there.
Yep, it's in there, and
and there's also a big shot of the blue marlin. Let's get down to priorities.
The blue marlin's in there. That's for sure. I mean, that's the. How sick is that? I love that.
Such a beautiful fish.
But yeah, I'll make sure that I can find that.
Yeah, jump on there and have a look. And for everyone that's into the country and west, and the funny thing is, I'm no good on anything apart from fishing, sports and stuff. I've got mates that are all mad keen on it. I'm bloody hopeless on it. It's the same with all the country and western. Because someone said the other day, it said, who's she interviewing? And I went, I don't know, country singers, I suppose. I don't know. They said, well, which ones? I went, I don't know any of them. So it's like, Everyone looks at me like I'm an idiot. So you've got to, maybe you'd have to tell us a couple of the good ones.
So the first big artist I interviewed was Jason Aldean at the CMC Awards in Australia. And that for me was like, I was shaking when I interviewed him.
Really?
Because he is one of my idols.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I just asked him for advice and what advice he'd give to up-and-coming artists. And he was super humble. He was just happy to stand on the stage with me. And it was just him and I backstage by ourselves, which was just super cool. And which was awesome because the Country Music Channel gave me that trust. And I got to conduct that interview and it was very comfortable. What other artists? Shenandoah Band is a really old school country band in the States. They've been around for forever. I interviewed them at the CMA Awards on the red carpet. That was a big highlight for me. Who else? Kelsea Ballerini. She's kind of pop on the radio here for pop as well, but she's like a breakthrough artist. Yeah, she's doing really well. She's kind of like, you heard of Taylor Swift?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
she's kind of replaced Taylor Swift.
Oh, rightio.
But yeah, go onto my website, guys, Honey on the Railroad, and you can see all of my interviews there with different artists. And then now I've done the Outdoor Channel, this show as well. And so
what is the show?
So the show is called Hunting for Love or Likes. It's a female hunting competition where they put girls that have large social media following that promote the outdoors on the show to see whether or not they hunt for the love of it or whether they hunt for the likes. Yeah.
That's what a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Because that brings us to a really interesting thing that obviously social media is so important. To me, that there seems to be a mismatch between it, particularly with fishing and hunting with the girls. And like we were saying earlier, how you were talking about that you wanted to do it, but they wouldn't let you have a go. But girls that are, well, let's say they're in their bikini, get lots of follows. And you said before that you lost a couple if you put, Zach up, your husband up.
Yes.
For me, that's a really interesting scenario because I'd follow you because I go, it's that authenticity. I look at it and go, oh, she's genuine, she loves it.
Yeah.
But if you're in a bikini all the time, just...
Okay, here's the thing. There's like a fine line. It's like the old, sex sells type thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily make you look credible. So, and that's something that I've learned over the years. Now in this social media world, any girl that takes half her clothes off will get 1 million more likes on social media. But is it really credible? And do those followers genuinely follow her because they think that she fishes well or because she's a good hunter, or are they following her to check her out?
That's exactly it.
And so I made that decision a long time ago. I'm not a prude, but I show my stuff off to my man and that's it. Do you know what I mean?
Nothing wrong with that at all.
No, I'll get in a cozy and whatever when it's summer, but I don't feel like that's what people should be. Well, that's what they should be focusing on. If somebody's looking at my stuff, I want them to look at it because they think, oh, she's badass. She actually gets out there and hunts, or gets out there and does it. So that's what this show kind of highlights, because whether or not these girls are out there genuinely hunting, or because they're trying to get attention on social media.
And it's a really interesting scenario. So Mo Newman, who's Journey South, is exactly the same. She is a gun fisher and obsessed, so passionate about it. But she's the same, absolutely same. She goes, she's got a beautiful bod. She's awesome as well. But she doesn't have to go and do it in a bikini. She just gets out and goes fishing because she loves it. If it's a sunny day, she'd probably wear a bikini. But half the time you have to wear a long sleeve shirt anyway because you get bloody burnt.
You get so burnt, and that's the thing. And a lot of the photos where you'll see girls out there and they'll be in the field checking trail cameras in hot pants and a bikini top, I'm like, they would be swarmed in mosquitoes for starters. They're not wearing the appropriate foot attire.
Trotting around in a pair of high heels,
I'm like, it doesn't matter if you're in Australia or if you're in America. Being out in the scrub, you've either got mosquitoes or gnats or snakes or whatever. It's just not practical. Do you know what I mean?
And that goes back to that authenticity, doesn't it? It's not genuine.
No. And I don't need to look good for nature. No. Do you know what I mean?
Nature doesn't care, does it?
And don't get me wrong, I've got makeup on right now. When I go out, I like to get dolled up, but there's a time and a place.
Yeah, and that's what I reckon. So for all those up-and-comers, don't go down that path. You get put in a certain box. And do you know what? If you're trying to get sponsorship, that does not sell. It's sex sells, but it doesn't sell to the people that are buying, whether it be Shimano or Yeti or, Costa Sunnies, whatever it is that are doing it. No one's, or even say Mercury, something we're a big ticket item, they're not going to buy it.
No, look, you'll get a couple of free coolers and some free rods or whatever out of it, but you're not going to be the person sitting in one of the big convention centres giving a talk because you're not credible. If you are educated and you inform you're informative, you know what you're doing, that's a whole other thing. But there's two other sides to it.
Yeah.
So if you want to go down the sex sells, you're going to get free stuff from people, cool, and that's fine if that's what you want to do. But if you want to be seen credible, I would go down the
proper path.
The proper path.
It's not a long-term approach. And
no.
Yeah, like you said, there'll be numbers, but the genuine, that authenticity or that passionate, and that's like you say, if you stand up, I remember years ago here, there was a girl called Marsha Bierman who used to do game reels from the US, and Cole Tannehill, who's actually head of Shimano, organised for her to come out. So it was stand-up fishing. And she came out, it was at JV Marine down in Melbourne, and this is, I'm talking 30 years ago now, so it was a big thing having a yank out doing this. And they're up there, and she's talking about, it was all the technique about how a girl can fight a fish better than a bloke, that, it's all about rhythm, like exactly what we were saying earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
But she stood up there and starts talking, and so there was this question, everyone's asking how do you use the technique and all that, and someone piped up and went, so how do you rig your baits? How do you do your lures, to catch the fish? And she turned around and went, I don't have to do that, and instantly lost all credibility.
Yes.
So it's a very similar thing that, if they want to wear a bikini, which now with the sun issues and all that sort of stuff is probably not that responsible anyway, but if you can do that and still stand your own and be able to rig your baits, catch your own fish, do it all yourself, no problem.
Yeah.
But if you can't, you lose cred, I reckon, and it's just, to me, I look at it and go, well, you know what? You're not really stepping up to the plate.
No, and why are you really doing it? Are you just doing it for attention from a bunch of random dudes on social media that you're never going to meet in person?
And what are they doing for you? Get a few likes. I remember some of the marketing managers I've dealt with over the years go, yeah, but I got 37 likes on Facebook. And I went, mate, that doesn't sell a Mercury 250. That's like a 35 grand engine. Trust me, it doesn't work.
It's like when I went on this show for the Outdoor Channel, one of my interviews, they were asking me about, so your followers on Instagram and all of this, and I said, all right, let's stop right there. First of all, I consider the people who are on my Instagram account as my mates. I am mates with them, they are mates with me. For the people that I actually connect with and communicate with, if you ever comment on my page, I will reply to you.
I'll give you credit.
I reply to every single person, and I consider everybody on there my mates because you're not stupid. You take your time to give me the time to look at my stuff, and I try to do that back. So I think you got to give people more credit and think of them as more intelligent as what these others are thinking. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? It's like, yeah, so...
And I reckon you're 100% mate. It's an appreciation. I did, when I looked at your page, you did do it. And when we were doing the live one before for Sportsman's Channel and Outdoor Channel, when it fell over about 10 times, we had the phone sitting there, kept falling off. It was like a Milo and Otis adventure. But you were answering all the questions. People we had to go and put scroll up and down to find the questions again. That's a genuine thing. That's that real genuine. But let's go back to your show. Tell us about... I love the idea of love or likes.
It's so great.
How did you enjoy it at the end? How did it... Was that that's your first hunting show, correct?
That was my first hunting show. It was with Matt Busbus. He has a property. He's hosted a bunch of other stuff, but he has a property, 55,000 acres down in Louisiana.
Holy moly.
Yeah, it's insane. You can actually legally bait down there. So his property is just complete.
So baiting. So for Australia, what do they mean by baiting?
So for starters, they have troughs that are full of rice feed all of this. So they feed the deer. They have what do you call it?
Hides.
No, they have oh my gosh, what's it called? I'm just
the suspense. There's thousands of people listening right.
No, they have food crops and stuff like that as well. But you can actually also legally take out bags of corn and feed.
Okay, so you can't do that. So hang on. So you can't do that in some states in the
No,
US?
no. It's only some states you can do that. And so in Louisiana, you legally can, and they have these different types of feed. One, corn, persimmon crush. Persimmon is a type of fruit. Apple beet crush and all of this, and you can actually put the food out, and the deer have this incredible sense of smell, so they come to the food. So it's a different type. For a competition, it works. For me, when I'm normally hunting, that's not really how I want to hunt. But it's really great for a competition, because the competition, it's a points competition the way it works. So you're trying so you're hunting whitetail, you're hunting pigs, and any other ferals around the property that you can legally hunt. I'll say this as well while I'm on here. In terms of hogs, guys, they are such a pest. A female gives birth up to 3 or 4 times a year, and in each litter can have up to 10 hogs. And in that litter, say half of them are female. So think about the stats on that. Each female then, each female from that does the same. So you have to have management over them. They just destroy the crops.
And it is. And it's interesting how pig numbers have dropped down in recent years. There used to be, I remember when I was a kid and we used to hunt, there used to be millions of pigs, and now they've dropped down. It's partially because we've got no water, we're just going dry in this country, it's all the drought. But yeah, the deer are the numbers that are coming up. So going back to it,
yes.
So they'd set you up and you'd be with a cameraman in a hide?
We had 5 zones each. We get given 5,000 acres each to hunt on.
5,000? Yes. Oh my God.
Each of your zones have got trail cameras set out. So each day you go and check your cards and you can see what deer moving around those zones. And then you make all the decisions yourself as to where you're going to hunt, morning and night, etc. So I found out pretty quickly where my big bucks were and where there were does and where there was nothing. For me, the way that I like to hunt, I'm not really a points type of hunter. Look, it will usually take me a year or a whole season to get one buck. So if you watch the show, you'll be interested to see my journey throughout it, because I struggle with the competition side of it.
Genuine hunter, that's what it is.
I really struggled with the competition side of it, but there is there's a breakthrough about halfway through, and a real story twist that happens. Plot thickens with my character, and my position on the show evolves. So I'll just say that.
All right. Now, when does this air?
It airs the 4th of April, this year. And you can download MOTV to watch it, and also on the Outdoor Channel in the States.
Yeah, I know. Do you know what? When I sit there with Mitch, I said, we've got to get this into Australia. Everyone would love it. And the funny thing is, hunting in Australia is going gangbusters. Everyone fishes, but we hardly have any. But we've got a few fishing shows. We've got no hunting shows or any outdoor shows. In fact, we had some of the stuff that they were getting, Seven Mate and all that, would bring in sort of the ones shooting gators and all that stuff in the US, because people wanted to watch it, but we didn't even have our own. Surely we should be making more stuff here. And
hunting actually is growing, especially bow hunting. It's growing so much in Australia. I had a guy who I had grown up with by the beach in Sydney. It was just a surfy, never even thought anything more of it. He came up to me the other day in the street and said, "You're a bow hunter, hey?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I want to get into it." He said, "All the boys are getting into it these days." I said, "Really?" All him and his mates, and these are boys from Sydney. And I was like, that is awesome. I love that. They're just like, we're just sick of buying everything from the supermarket. We want to know where our food comes from. And I'm like, that's great. I love that.
I reckon that's the best way. And I think if we can teach them, because we've still got that analogy in Australia where it's, it's a pest, we've got to shoot it. It's like, no, utilise it. We've got at the moment, they're up in the, I think it's up at a willow tree. We're paying for choppers to fly around and shoot deer and pigs. Down Victoria, they're doing it. I sit there going, and they're dumping it on the ground. At the same time, if you go in a national park, you get arrested if you go and take a deer out. But they'll fly around using taxpayers' dollars and leave them there. And they're doing it in the summer, so everything's just rotting and the flies are everywhere. And I just sit there going, what an absolute criminal waste of a resource that we could actually make money out of, generate money out of, utilise the resource, and we'd be eating deer.
And like what I've said to you before, in terms of all the animals that I harvest, I use everything from them. I'll use the antlers for decorations. All my jewelry that's in my home is held by antlers.
That is awesome.
Yeah, for my wedding, it was all decorated with wild turkey feathers and antlers, you know, with my bear rugs, all of this kind of stuff. All of it, when I take an animal, I literally use all of it.
That's a respect for the animal. To me, that's just such a critical part of it. And in Australia, we've seemed to have missed that, because I saw in the US that you actually have to, when you get some of those back blocks and stuff like that, that part of the rule is you have to harvest the meat, take the meat out with you. Like in Australia, I mean, we've got it. We're trying now. So in Victoria, you can hunt national parks, and it's a great system, but they haven't got it where you have to harvest the deer. So to me,
so what, they just leave it there?
so most of them take them out, but they don't have to. To me,
It's so crazy to me, because just because I started hunting in the States, and so I'm like learning all this stuff that I didn't know about Australian laws in hunting. That to me is just bizarre.
it's frustrating as hell that it should be like, come on guys, we've got to be utilising this. It's such a, sambar deer, it's such a great meat. Yeah, they're a pest. I know that we've got to manage numbers. What better way than putting hunters in there and doing it? And if we've got problems, we just manage them and don't lock it up. Manage them. It's the same with marine parks. We have this thing where instead of going, okay, we need to put management tools in there to make it better for everyone. Oh no, Australia, we lock it up.
But so even for the people that are fence sitters or then, don't like the hunting or whatever, Australia is a very health conscious country, especially if you're around the coast. You see everybody, they're trying to eat their organic this, organic that, blah, 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 blah. Venison, deer meat, is the leanest meat that you can get anywhere. So think about that. It is better than a kangaroo. It is so lean. So just from like a health point of view, give it a try, because it's delicious. It is not gamey, and you can, oh my gosh, it's just the best.
Well,
So
the funny
good.
thing is, everyone that comes around to our place, because they all think that the old thing, oh, it's all full of worms and stuff like that. No wild animal can be full of worms. It's a tough life out there.
I know.
And everyone comes around, and once they start eating it, they go,
This is
oh my
good.
God, how good's this stuff? And
Yeah.
it just, I mean, that's the frustrating thing. It's just, we've got to be looking after it and utilise it and get the next generation. I love the idea of your old mate going, we all want to go and get our own meat. Like, how good is it that people are starting to do it? And the more people doing it, we get the same thing with fishing. They go, oh, there's too many people fishing. When actually it's the other way around. You want more people fishing, but if they're doing the wrong thing, we teach them. Like, I look back over my journey and how much I've learnt and evolved. It's been amazing. And even, so when we went fishing the other day, my biggest concern that day was how few people were out fishing. Like, I was quite shocked. I wrote that up for the Telegraph about our day fishing.
I know, well, we've got a current government that are trying to cut out recreational fishing,
What the?
which is just ridiculous. I know.
It is so frustrating that we get more people out. Don't lock it up. And I mean, you can't even drink late. If you go to Redfern or something, they cut all it. They locked everyone out. Instead of managing and going, hey, if someone's going to be a dickhead and get turfs, chuck him in the bloody jail for a couple of nights.
Don't get Al and I started on the police state that we currently live in.
The nanny state. We haven't even got the poor police going to do it. We're in a nanny state.
Oh my gosh.
So what's the future hold? So the show's coming out. You're back over to Nashville.
So I'm headed back to Nashville for the airing of the show on the 4th of April. I've got some turkey hunts. We're doing a release party in Nashville, so that'll be an opening release party for the show. So that'll be a lot of fun in one of the honky tonks downtown.
Oh, beautiful.
And then I'm going to go on some turkey hunts. I'm going to come back to Australia, hopefully get a hunt in with you, which would be great.
A sambar hunt.
I might possibly get a red stag hunt in before I leave Australia in a week or two.
Yeah, because the rut's about to be upon
About
us.
to be, yes. And I have a black bear hunt in Canada in June.
Oh, radio.
Yep. And then after that, whitetails and bow fishing. Bow fishing is, so Asian carp, stuff like that are a big
Are they
pest.
the jumping ones?
They are, and they're a big pest in the States. They are just everywhere. You cannot shoot enough of them. They really take over all the waterways. But they're really fun to fish or to shoot at because they just jump out of the water.
What, so you're shooting them out of the water?
They jump out of the water and you shoot them as they come out.
No
yeah, it's
way.
so much fun with a bow and arrow.
Holy moly, that's some
you would
serious
love it.
work.
You would love it, and great workout. So them. I really want to learn how to noodle this year as well.
Yeah, because we had someone ask about that earlier on. And
Yeah, so I know a girl in South Alabama, Hannah Barron, and she's got a huge amount of followers, but she got Insta famous, I guess, from noodling this giant catfish down in Alabama, and she is like, they laugh when her and I get together because she has got the thickest drawl Alabama accent, like, you can barely understand like this.
No
and then I'm
way.
Aussie as, and so the two of us, people just laugh when her and I are together. So I want to go noodling with her and her dad because they're just like redneck as, like, yeah.
that would be awesome. 'Cause
Yeah.
every time our shows are on over there, people send, when are you going to go noodling?
We need to do an episode
On noodling.
on noodling with them.
That
Al.
would be cool.
No,
We need to do
seriously.
it. Because every time because when they first did it, and I'll admit it, I thought they meant like chicken noodles. I had no idea. And so this person sent a text in going, or like a message in going, when are you going to go noodling? And I'm like, what the hell?
Why does everyone care about this so
I
much?
couldn't understand it. And then I'm like, I looked it up and went, oh, it's fishing. It's
Yeah.
not boiling some noodles up for dinner. It's
Yeah, it's-
bloody catfish.
It's you can either put a glove on. You would want to put a glove on. Some of the crazies don't.
No,
but
I'm going in raw.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. I'm going in raw.
they pretty much, the catfish get into these catfish holes, and you put your hands in, and there's a certain way that you grab them so that it doesn't hurt the fish. They latch onto your arm and you pull them out of the hole, and then you hold them up, and it's like, you never know. It's like the lucky dip. You never know what you're going to get until you pull it out.
So imagine if you said you were doing that in Australia.
You
You
get-
did it, you'd put your hand down, you end up mud crab hole, so you'd lose your arm.
Or you get bitten by a snake.
Or there's a snake. Or if you do it up north, a croc would sneak up behind you and chew on you. Like when that bloke said before, saying, oh, you should try noodling in Australia. Oh, no, we're not getting in the water.
No,
It's too bloody
you
dangerous.
can just say that to them and go, all right, your turn.
Yeah, that's it. After you, that's it. Well, I tell you what, so what else, nothing else has come up? Because that sounds like it's bloody busy for
Yeah,
you.
it's a busy year, but I plan on spending a fair bit of time this year back in Australia. I've come back for, a few months. Well, I've been back now for 2 months, and it makes, when you're away, sometimes you kind of adjust and you forget.
Yep.
You get so caught up in how busy your life is, but I'm back home at the moment, and I love Australia so much. So I really want to spend some time here this year hunting, down at my farm, doing all of that as well. So
And get Zach, get the better half out, because we're not like Instagram. We like it that you've got a husband and stuff. It's a bloody great fun. Get him out here as well, and
Yeah.
we'll take him hunting and stuff.
yeah.
We can't show him any turkeys. Oh, actually, you know what? We'll take him around Sydney. There'll be a lot of turkeys around there for him.
Yeah, we'll see
Not
how
the
he
wild
goes
ones.
with that. Oh my gosh. Somebody actually messaged me the other day and said, so do you eat the turkeys? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, really? And I'm like, it's not like a bush turkey in Australia.
That's
what they thought. And I'm like, no.
You know what? We should. I'll tell you what. We're going to bring Zach out. We're going to show him, and we'll go and show him a bush turkey. And go,
Oh,
there's our version of a turkey.
Try and call that in.
Yeah, call that in. And all you have to do is hold up a bit of bread. It'll come straight over to you.
Yeah, that's right. They're like a little pest.
Oh, I tell you. So, well, that is one awesome. I must admit, I've had an absolute ball
Me
just chatting to you
too.
about. And do you know what? I've learned about country and western and all that as well. I knew nothing. I might even have to look up these people at the end of this. So make sure. So they've got to see you on Instagram.
Yep, Instagram is Mary O'Neill Official. My website with all of my hosted interviews is honeyontherailroad.com. And the show that I'm on airs on the Outdoor Channel and MOTV, which you can download. It's Hunting for Lover Likes, and you can give that a follow on Instagram as well.
Just before we close, how on earth did you come up with Honey on the Rail?
Okay, Honey on the Railroad.
I meant to ask before,
No.
but how on earth did you get a name
you
like
like
that?
it?
I reckon it's great.
Yeah, thank you. So when I came back and I had made the decision I was going to go to Nashville, I realized that I needed to create my own platform because the digital platform in Australia was decreasing, and I couldn't see long-term work for me being that profitable. So I knew I'd have to get over to the States at some stage.
Yep.
So I created my own platform, and I needed to have a catchy name. And I wanted it to be country, but I wanted it to also be me. And so I started just going over names, Denim and Pearls, all these things. And then I was like, what do you love? Like, what to you means country music? And I thought, the railroads. Like, the railroads to me, when I think of the countryside, when I think of the best stories, the war boys going off, all of that stuff, I think of railroads. And then the honey, well, my favorite drink is honey whiskey on the rocks.
Oh, now I knew it'll always end with alcohol.
Always ends with the whiskey. So, yeah, and then I was like, honey whiskey is my favorite song. And, like, what good country song hasn't got whiskey in it? And
Yeah.
so then I was like, honey on the railroad. And then, oh, I like that.
I reckon it's brilliant. And I
Thank
meant to
you.
ask before, I reckon it's a brilliant idea.
Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've had an absolute ball.
Yeah.
We're going fishing, we've got some hunts coming up. Now, make sure you did anything you want to ask, use the social media platforms, whatever you want to call us. Make sure you follow Mary. And you know what? I'm going fishing, because that's enough podcast for today. Fishing is my life. It's in my DNA. From above the water and below the surface. It's who I am. Join me as I travel the world in search of the most insane fishing experiences on the planet.
You got it.
Oh, yeah!
Big fish right there, Al.
Yeah, baby! To the size of it.
You're in for it now, buddy.